Okay, the first thing I'm curious to try is some acrylic paint markers on it, and to actually draw on the reverse and see how transparent colors will be to shine through, if that makes sense. And I've got 3 to try. I'm sure they will be the same though. A Crink, a Molotow, and a Posca. And they're all acrylic paint markers. So let's see. Let's do some Crink action first. And give it a shake. And maybe I'll actually need my bigger Crink. Yeah, it's gonna cover some ground really quickly. I've never drawn Spider-Man before, so I have to check references for which parts are red and blue. Not that it really matters that much, but that part is... And let's see, is it shining through? Actually, not really, is it? It might be an immediate fail. Yeah, I've decided I don't really like the effect of seeing it through the other side. If you hold it up to light, so if it has backing light, then it's cool, but otherwise, not really a fan. I was hoping this would be a super quick way to do some art where you do the line work and then you just put the color in beneath. So yeah, you can see if there is some light, then the color will shine through, but if there isn't light, not so much. I mean, it's okay, but it's not that exciting for me, so oh well. But I'm just gonna quickly finish it anyway. Yeah, the red of his arms is quite tricky and confusing. Somehow I got red there, I'm not really sure how, but I think that part's meant to be red anyway. And is that his body too? Yeah. Okay, this is a bit weird. I can barely see what I'm drawing. And then I might do another blue here with the Molotow. That's the fine end. Feels the same. So if you're wondering why I've got basically 2 identical blues, I received both, actually, all of these. Yeah, all of these acrylic paint pens in art subscription boxes like Art Snacks and Paletful Packs and stuff like that. I think the Posca covered more ground quicker. And it looks like it's drying fairly rapidly as well. So at least, you know, whatever side you choose to work on with acrylic paint markers, just like acrylic will stick to pretty much everything, it's going to be the same for Yupo as well. Okay, so here's my Spidey coming through faintly there. Not so exciting. You can also see maybe some pencil marks where I've drawn. I need to let that dry though. And then I'll move on to trying some other experiments with it. Okay, I decided I don't really like so much how this turned out in the see-through. Unless I had some sort of backing light to display it, it's just not going to be vibrant enough for my taste, I guess. Yeah, so I'm gonna just try some alcohol markers on top, see how that goes. So it's activating the line work. Immediate problem, which I'd never tried doing the lines first before. Yeah, this could like ruin everything, but we'll see. In terms of how the marker light is down though, I'm finding these touch 5s actually lying down stronger than my Copics did on the medium Yupo. This is transparent Yupo, so I'm not exactly sure. Let me grab a Copic. Yeah, they don't actually work quite as well, it seems, as the touch 5 alcohol markers do. I'm pretty sure they're all gonna dry. Could be the colors that I'm choosing, but whatever. I would rather just use cheaper markers for a quicker sketch like this, or maybe it's not gonna be quicker, but it's not a high quality sketch or one that I want to like sell or anything, I guess. Probably should have done some highlighted spots along there. Let's see if this one's more vibrant. I just wanted to get some color variation going on. Maybe there. Yeah, I'm really just experimenting. No real plan. Yeah. I use two different kinds of black inking pens, and it looks like one is staying put more than the other one is. So that's interesting. Okay, let's try some hot pink highlights. But it's blurring with the pen a lot. Or the liner pen. Whatever. I hope you understand what I mean. It's kind of fun, sketchy approach, even though it's blurring lines. It's not really a strong red, is it? Let's see if I can get a stronger one. So that one's behaving more like a how I found the Copics did, or would. I really dislike the Touch 5 lids. It's so easy to destroy the chisel tip. Okay, that's a better red. And we got some interesting color variation, I think, from having a highlight color. Oops, I forgot his boot should stop. Oh well. And I'll try a deep red mixed in as well and see how that goes. But these lines are really moving around a lot. Or the inking lines, I mean. So, definitely do your line work after working with markers on Yupo. Unless you want something very sketchy like this. Let's see what the dark red ends up being. Whoa. Okay, it looks like hot pink on the Yupo, but yeah, on regular paper, it is very dark red, but on Yupo, nope. Let's see if I can get a grey. So maybe a warm grey will darken. Or maybe not. Well, at least there's some color variation. But I feel like I need to go around the line work again. Yeah, anyway. And I also put down some paper here so that I could throw down some alcohol inks around and see what happens with those. Oh, and if you saw my thumb, I cut it when I was making dinner the other night. Sliced it really quite badly. It's always the worst. So I need some alcohol. Some like isopropyl alcohol, not some drinking alcohol. Okay, so I also wanted to just wet around a bit. See, just a little bit of alcohol and I've destroyed my work. Oh, if you've never seen anyone use alcohol inks before, I'm using alcohol inks by Marabou. I received them in powerful packs for October. I'll put a link up for the unboxing for them. And it has some tips and hints on how to use them and all that sort of stuff. But there's a lot of bleeding already. Or did I mean bleeding? I don't know. There's a lot of like spillover into the drawing. And I wanted mostly just a background. Really don't know what I think about this, but I've been making some weird art in general lately, so whatever. Let's try painting around some... Or weird, I shouldn't say weird art, I mean like just art that's different from what I'm normally used to making, if I even have a kind of style. I'm not sure if I do or not. But often I get told that I have some sort of recognizable style. But anyway, lately I've just been doing some really like loose stuff, and then if weird stuff happens, like I don't know, like I used to be like really careful about where things would go, and then lately if there's these happy accidents or other random stuff, I'm not minding. So I had no real plan for this other than a vibrant ink background. Definitely didn't feel like drawing a whole cityscape, which is the typical, you know, Spider-Man swinging through the air, lots of city buildings behind him, all that sort of stuff. I did not feel like doing that, so I wanted to see if I could make an interesting, really rapid kind of background. Maybe if I put a couple of layers of alcohol inks, it's going to be something interesting. I'm not really sure. It's definitely an experiment, that's for sure. And I was thinking actually of slicing off part of the bottom part. I don't think I centered, or I don't think I put the sketch in a good position for the page, which is an A4 size page, I think, or roughly that, or something like 9 by 12 inches, something close to that. So I was thinking to trim it anyway, but we'll see. For now, let's just get a background down, and then we'll decide. Look at this craziness that's happened to the sketch. So I think he's going to just blur away in a field of watercolory inkiness as it's drying. But maybe that's a cool sort of outcome. I might even try to encourage it. And I was going to add more alcohol inks, but I think I'm actually going to leave it as it is. I might throw in some splotches of rainbow because that's fun. I think my lights are too bright on here. Sorry. I said I'm not going to touch it, but then I go and do it. And a bit more red. And a bit more yellow. Then I'll put some rainbow on quickly as well. I find that for these inks at least, these are the only alcohol inks I've ever used before, but you have to work quite quickly to do a number of effects. And it's also useful to throw down some rubbing alcohol first as like a base layer. That's going to give you a little bit more time for working. Okay, sparkle time. It kind of gets clogged, the metallics. I think the glitter gets clogged and dries in and clogs. I just put some on me. I think also these lids don't dry the best. Oh, sorry, hold on the best. It's hard to think while working with these. And it's not all on camera, sorry. This is all a bit of a mess. I've forgotten how to YouTube. No, I don't think I ever really knew how to YouTube. Yeah, I'm not really liking working with the brush and then it's just kind of digging in. So let's just go back to dropping. Okay, I think I'm just going to leave this experiment at that point and hopefully it's going to dry somehow. There's some odd things going on and I've made quite a mess with the inks, so I'm going to go clean that up and I'll come back to show you the finished piece when it's dry and maybe even come back and do some more line work on it. But I think I'm going to probably just leave it in this loose watercolory inky style. And that will be that. Okay, I hope you enjoyed watching with me. Back in a sec. So I got back from cleaning up my messy alcohol inks and I thought I'd just add a little bit of white spider webbing with my new fine white Posca pen, but then I started tinkering more and more and more, and so I'll put in a voiceover now last minute while I'm editing for this last part of my process. First of all, the webbing, really fun to draw. I'd always wanted to draw Spider-Man and I never got around to it, I'm not sure why. And I always just love looking at comic book art, and especially for Spider-Man, who I'm not really a huge comic book fan of, but I love the art of Spider-Man, and his webbing since the 90s has always blown my mind, and just the cool poses that he goes into is so awesome. But when I put down the white Posca on the transparent Yupo, it doesn't really seem to stand out so much to me. It's okay, but it looks a little bit of a kind of mistake mess maybe? I'm not sure. I think about using a wider white Posca for a moment, but then I decide I'll put in some black ink highlights, and because those black ink highlights are going to be a lot darker, I also then start putting in some dark ink highlights on Spider-Man himself. Oh, this is the slightly thicker white Amsterdam acrylic white marker. I realize when I'm putting in the ink lines for Spider-Man that I also want some more dramatic shadow work. I really like some of the shadows that I just kind of instinctively go with. In fact, I do feel I get a little bit too carried away with the shadows on his face, and you'll see that in a moment. But all in all, I'm really pleased with just the kind of instinctive reaction I had for the shadow work. And for all of this black lining pen, I'm using my Pentel Pocket Brush Pen. It's got a really fine brush point tip, so you can have really fine line details, but then of course you can push down because it's a real brush and make it really quite wide and have some really interesting line variation. And so I just really enjoy working with that pen, and I know many people do from seeing so many artists online using it. It's just so fun to work with. If you haven't ever tried it before, I really recommend this pen, not just for working on Yupo paper, but just for sketching in general. And this is actually the pen that encouraged Jake Parker, I believe, to start Inktober in the first place. He wanted to get better at controlling this and using this Pentel Pocket Brush Pen and brush pens in general. And so he created Inktober as a personal challenge several years ago for him to practice daily for a month using this pen for maybe like an hour a day or something. And yeah, it's something that does take some getting used to, I think, for most people. But once you do begin to adjust to it, it really opens a whole new world of possibilities in terms of creative potential, line variations, adding more character to your sketches. Because again, like this started off as just a quick 15-minute sketch. Proportions and stuff are still not really great, but by the end of it, thanks to the combination of the powerful pop of the alcohol inks and also the dramatic line variation and shadow work of the Pentel Pocket Brush Pen, I end up with something that I'm actually really happy with. And at first I said there's no way that I'd ever consider like selling this piece or anything like that, but actually I find that I reach a point where I'm really happy with it, and I'd quite happily myself purchase something like this. So yeah, I wouldn't mind selling this or prints of it or merchandise based on it. If I ever get around to making an online store, I have some weird hang up, I think, about creating an online presence and selling my art. But if I want to be a more successful artist rather than just wait for people to seek me out for commissions, that's certainly something that I'm going to have to look into. Hopefully I'll encourage myself to do that. By the way, thank you for those people that have asked about that and inquired about whether or not they can buy prints or my merch or support me via Ko-fi or Coffee or Patreon or whatever. Yeah, I keep thinking about doing it. I just haven't gotten around to it. If you're interested in more of me, though, I have an Instagram. And so if you haven't checked that out, feel free to find me on Instagram. I am at aartadventure on Instagram as well. And I just recently posted, actually yesterday, I think, or the day before, this Spider-Man image hanging on my studio window, backlit. And I'll also include that in this video at the end as well, because I think the backlit version versus the top-lit version is a really interesting contrast. And that's one of the cool strengths of this transparent Yupo paper. So yeah, I'm just working on the fine details of the Spider-Man here, and some parts I think are more successful than others, partly because, again, the proportions and perspective are a little bit off. Especially the top foot bugs me, and I think I could have done a better job of his hand placement, and maybe just, again, the shadow work, not maybe, but definitely the shadow work on his face at the end is just a little bit weird. It gets too dark. But all in all, I'm really happy with how it's all put together and how it goes with the alcohol ink background. I imagine that he's fighting like Mysterio or some sort of villain, and Mysterio and all the other villains has attacked him, maybe with like a hallucinogenic cloud of Technicolor smoke or something that's messing with his mind, causing hallucinations. He's trying to sling away or get back into the fight, and all of these weird psychedelic patterns are exploding all around him and he's barely able to focus and concentrate. But of course it's Spider-Man, so he has his spidey senses to kind of help him keep on track to some degree, and he's always remaining agile even when he's basically completely out of it. So that's my kind of interpretation of what's going on, and it's certainly a lot easier than having to draw an entire cityscape. I love seeing the cityscapes in art comics with Spider-Man, but man, those artists deserve a pay rise for having to draw all those intricate buildings and all the stuff around New York, which is where Spider-Man usually is hanging out. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this piece. I hope that you've enjoyed a real-time art adventure. If you're new here, thank you so much for stopping by. And of course, please consider subscribing and clicking like and leaving me a comment down below. That's obviously one of my favorite things. I say that all the time, to hear from you in the comments below and what your thoughts are on the art that I create, or just what comments you have in general. It always surprises me what people pick up on or focus on or find interesting about the videos, and it's just always so great to get to know you guys. So please consider leaving a comment, and of course if you just enjoy watching or it's too difficult to comment because you're just on a phone or whatever, I'd still appreciate you watching and clicking subscribe and like, and don't forget of course the notification bell, which will keep you in the loop every time I post. Often I'm posting regularly, but the last couple of weeks I've taken a little bit of a break. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon for another art adventure. Don't forget, create a little more and consume a little less, and take care everyone. Bye.